Good afternoon, evening, morning, wherever you are calling from. As usual, we're going to let everybody get situated. There's people still dropping in as usual, those late comers. So while we're waiting for that, we are going to just launch a couple polls, and then we will hand this off to Jason, and he's going to be talking about the IQ4 panel and all of the different sound options. So here we go. First one, have you installed an IQ panel for you? Easy, yes or not yet. All right, so lots of votes popping in. It's looking good. About 50% have installed an IQ4 already. That's good. We'll just give only about 50% of you have voted. We'll just give you a couple more seconds to vote. All right, so yeah, we're about two-thirds. Two-thirds have not installed an IQ panel 4 yet. So just as a reminder, there is, please find the Q&A box. Feel free to drop in, where you're calling from. Say hi. Or we've got Joel and Mark and Patrick on the back end looking at those questions. So feel free, but use the Q&A box, and then we'll be able to answer any questions you have. Right. So we're going to close that poll, and here we go. Next one. Okay, so speaker sound quality is very important to me and my customers, and it's pretty simple. Strongly, somewhat, agreeing, or neither agreeing or disagreeing. There we go. Okay, interesting. Nice spread here. So nobody strongly disagrees. There's a few somewhat disagrees, but the majority are definitely, over almost 65% are either in a strongly or somewhat agreeing. That's great. We'll give that just a few more seconds. Let everybody continue to vote. And we'll close that one. This is more of a personal question. You would like to see JCI develop more or unique, fun use cases using the panel speakers. So different things that we can use those speakers for. So we have a lot of strongly agrees and somewhat agrees, and so far no disagrees. Everybody's either agreeing or disagreeing, but the majority are definitely on the somewhat or strongly agreeing. We agree too. We think there's a lot more we could do with these speakers on IQ Panel 4. Yeah, just a couple more seconds. All right, close that one. Okay, what do you like best about the new speakers on the IQ4? Louder chimes, voices throughout the house, better two-way audio, Bluetooth music streaming. All right, so definitely a big percentage for louder chimes and voices throughout the house, but the two-way audio is up there as well. So only 50% of the people have voted so far. So again, we'll give it a couple seconds. But very good. That's the kind of feedback we want to hear. So that's really good to hear that the louder chimes and voices was definitely a key, along with better two-way voice. So that's awesome. And one more before I pass this off to Jason and get to turn my camera. Here we go. If you are table mounting, do you plan on using the base speaker table stand or the standard table stand? So would you be using the base stand, yes, no, maybe, or is it a paid upgrade? Ooh, very even across the board here.
Okay.
Very interesting. So about 40% want to use it for a paid upgrade, which I think it's an awesome upgrade. But a lot of people are planning on using the base or the standard table stand. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Great.
Cool.
That's really good. All right, I'm going to close this off, and Jason, over to you, my friend.
Okay, we'll kick it off here. Yeah, I think I always like doing those polls. It's always interesting to hear, to understand our audience a little better. Plus we're big on the feedback. We like to, just because we release a new feature doesn't mean it's something that you guys care about. So we love seeing the feedback, and of course we take that back and tweak what we're building based on that feedback. Since we were talking about table stand, that base speaker stand as a table stand looks pretty good. And we'll talk a little bit more about this here as we go on. But we'll go ahead and kick it started. As a reminder, as Neil mentioned, we have a handful of TAMs in the background answering questions. So if you guys have questions throughout this presentation, feel free to chat those in, and we'll get those questions answered. These technical workshops are always designed to be kind of short and sweet and to the point. And so we're going to try to do that today and keep it under 30 minutes. Now, today's presentation is going to be focused around the speakers. Why did we add new speakers, bigger speakers, more speakers, and what can we do with them? And so we'll focus on that. Depending on timing, at the end, we can go through some sound settings on the physical panel itself as well, kind of depending on how we end up here. So to kick this off, I'll start with this. IQ Panel 2 was always loved for the looks and the feel and the design and the way that it, was sat on the wall, right? The way that it looked on a wall. It was very small, it was very sleek, it was very thin. However, one of the top feedback, right, that we got from our dealers for IQ Panel 2 is that it wasn't loud enough, right? We wanted louder chimes, we need better voices, we need to be able to hear it throughout the home a little more, right? And that was feedback we got, weekly for the last 5 years, right? Was that IQ Panel 2 wasn't loud enough, and so we heard that feedback. We took it very seriously, as you can tell from this training already. And we wanted to make sure that IQ Panel 4 was the best sounding alarm panel ever built, right? Because we do a lot with sound nowadays. We're not just using chimes and voices. We're using two-way voice. We're using now Bluetooth music streaming. We're talking to our doorbell cameras through here, right? We're doing a lot with sound now. So sound is very important to us, right? But with that being said, there was a challenge. There was a challenge keeping that sleek, sexy look and feel that people loved about IQ Panel 2, while also adding in, additional speakers, right? So that was a fairly big challenge for us to keep the 7-inch touchscreen and integrate better, louder speakers, while still, again, maintaining somewhat of an attractive design. I think we did okay with that. Feedback, we're starting to ship these panels, we're starting to install these panels, and feedback has been awesome. So, hats off to our hardware team that made this happen. Sorry about that. I do have two quick videos I want to share. I know that they don't play super well over webinar, but I think they play well enough to get the point across, and then I can speak to them if we have any questions. But I do want to kick this off with a quick video, so we'll start that here right now.
Garage door open.
Awesome. So just good overview video of the sound and kind of our what we're doing with it. And as I mentioned again, it's not just about sounds and chimes and voices anymore, right? We're doing music streaming. We're doing two-way audio. We're now two-way audio communicating through our cameras. And we have a lot of other cool features on the roadmap that are going to be that are going to involve these speakers, right? And so we got a lot of cool things coming down the road. And that was kind of the reason for the poll question, right? Is curious if you guys would like to see us do more and design more features around the speakers, and there are stuff coming, so we're excited about that. Stay tuned for some of those new fun features. So let's talk about the sound. Obviously, when it comes to sound on the IQ panel, there's two components here. First and foremost are the speakers that are built into the panel, obviously, and then we have the IQ base, right? The table stand / speaker stand, right? So we'll talk about that as well. So to start off with the speakers inside the panel, we have them 4 front-facing speakers hidden behind that kind of fabric grille there. Again, put a lot of work into this, worked with a lot of vendors, tested tons of different options here for speakers. Again, wanted to make sure that we had a really good solution here with a good full sounding, panel as far as speakers go. So we actually did a ton of work with some of our vendors, Qualcomm, Foxconn, some of the other guys that we work with, and basically what we came up with was 4 front-facing, sonically welded, sealed speakers, right? In fact, I have a kind of emptied out shell of an IQ Panel 4 here that kind of show you what those speakers look like, right? So this is actually what's sitting behind that fabric grille that you see on the IQ Panel 4. And as you can tell, these are completely sealed, right? They're sonically welded together. They're completely sealed, and that matters when we're talking about sound and fullness of sound, right? These are all 4-watt speakers, and we have separate drivers for both left and right channels here. So a lot of work went into these little 4 speakers here, right, to make these sound sound good. In addition to obviously the 4 front-facing speakers here, and in comparison, you guys know that with IQ Panel 2, we had 2 rear-facing speakers. So we kind of doubled down on speakers inside the panel and oriented them out forward now, so they're not bouncing off the wall anymore. Now, in addition to this, we get better frequency response. We're actually able to go a whole lot lower on the frequency scale, if you will, than we were with IQ Panel 2. So to kind of put that into perspective, a pretty standard dial tone, right? If you pick up a phone and you hear that dial tone sits at about 300 hertz, right? IQ Panel 4 wasn't capable of going lower than 450 hertz. Why does that matter, right? Well, obviously that has a lot to, that really comes into play when you're talking about different levels of sound, right? Take voices, for example. At 450 hertz, right, we can cover a female voice pretty good, right? Female voices are a little bit higher pitched, and so a female voice sounds really good at 450 hertz, right? But a male voice is going to come in a lot lower. And so actually with IQ Panel 2, or with IQ Panel 4 currently, we can go as low as 200 hertz. So we can actually go 100 hertz lower than that kind of low level dial tone hertz level that we're used to, right? And again, this really matters when we're talking two-way voice, right? You get a male operator come up with a voice, and if he's coming in anything lower than 450 hertz, which is again as low as IQ Panel 2 could go, it starts to distort and not sound as good, right? So having a wider range, frequency range that these speakers can support is just going to give us better, fuller sound, and it's going to accommodate voices, chimes, obviously music. All right, this is going to be hugely important for music, right? When you're playing music that has the lower bass in it, right? You got to be able to hit those lower frequencies. And so this was a small technical detail, but it actually really matters when it comes to the actual sound quality that comes out of the panel. Being able to go a lot lower than we were with IQ Panel 2 allows us to just create a better sound. And then, of course, we have a much higher SPLs, and SPL stands for sound pressure levels on IQ Panel 4, which again just adds to the whole, the better sound and the more flexible alarm tones and stuff like that, right? So this is what you get inside the panel. And again, of course, we're chiming, we're using two-way voice for this. Whether you have the speaker stand or not, you can stream your Bluetooth music through the speakers on the panel. So if it is wall mounted, you still get to take advantage of that music streaming feature, right? You can still play your music through these speakers, and it actually sounds pretty good without having that bass unit on the back, right? So that's kind of it for the inside speakers, the panel speakers that are built in. Now, obviously, you've heard a ton. We've talked a lot about the bass stands, right? I've got one here in front of me. Obviously, this is a table slash speaker, right? When we were building IQ Panel 4, we had to build a table stand, and we thought, why not turn this table stand into a speaker? Let's kill two birds with one stone here, right? And so that's kind of where this kind of how this came to be, right? So speaking of the bass, we got a cool graphic here that kind of shows this thing coming together. This is basically a large subwoofer, right? It's a low frequency speaker with two passive radiators on the side, which just adds better response, frequency response, and dispersion, sound dispersion. Those those passive radiators that you see on the side, those black speakers, if you will, those are speakers that are not powered. They're basically speakers that use pressure to work. So as that subwoofer, pounds and is pushing that music out, there's nowhere for the sound to go except out those radiators. And again, as that sound and that pressure is forced out those radiators, that's kind of what gives you that oomph, right? That bass sound. So we have, two of those in there. Again, just really considering good sound here. We wanted good low-level frequency sounds, good bass level sounds, right? And this design here kind of helps show how that was accomplished, right? By layering these pieces on top of each other here. So we 3D printed tons of prototypes of this. We did tons of different testing with IQ Bass. We've got a 10-watt amplifier built into this to push that bass speaker as well. And talking to the hardware team, it's just interesting to, we get a lot of questions. Why did you guys go out and build, Bluetooth music streaming? Why was this important to you? And really the answer was we didn't set out to build Bluetooth music streaming because we thought that this was a feature that the security industry needed. It just kind of naturally happened, right? And speaking to our hardware team, they kind of put this into perspective. We were going to develop a table stand. We were going to develop, these louder speakers in the panel. So let's put some of that development cost into a speaker/table stand, right? We've got the Android. We've already got the music player built into the panel. We've got audio DSP built into the Qualcomm chipset. I'll talk about that here in a minute. It was just kind of a natural progression for us. It was easy to support, and so why not do it, right? It's kind of a fun, cool feature that we can support. So the other thing that we get here is obviously a fully tuned enclosure with the built-in amplifier. I mentioned that. We get multiple alarm audio patterns with this setup, which is kind of cool. So all of our audio that comes out of the panel are actually audio files that are stored on the Qualcomm chipset. And that's kind of what gives us our flexibility when it comes to audio. We've got multiple different alarm types, depending on the type of alarm that you have, right? Whether it's a burglar alarm, whether it's a fire alarm, whether it's a water alarm. And then of course, we've got all sorts of different chime features that you guys can choose from when programming your sensors. This is all part of the Android, right? That can store basically an audio file on the board and play it whenever we want to play it, right? So we get a lot of flexibility when it comes to sirens and chimes and voices and stuff like that because of the chipset that we're using. And honestly, kind of future looking, this will give us potentially the ability here in the near future to start adding in different audio files, right? Maybe down the road we can start to add in voice into our sirens, right? Where we can announce that, hey, the bedroom 2 smoke alarm is going off, right? So not only are you get the typical smoke alarm siren that you get, but the panel could announce that, hey, bedroom 2 smoke detector is actually the one that's sounding, right? Or basement, furnace room is the one that's sounding. And so having this ability to just store an audio file on the chipset and play it when the panel's in alarm mode gives us great flexibility. And so again, from the hardware engineers, the product managers, there is a possibility here in the near future that we can start to do some more custom alarm tones and voice chimes and stuff like that. So more to come on that, but again, just kind of showing the flexibility that we have here when it comes to sound. The other thing here that I wanted to briefly mention was the audio tuning. So thanks to Qualcomm, thanks to the Snapdragon chipset that we're using, this is a built-in feature of the chipset that we're using is audio DSP. Audio DSP stands for digital signal processing. Basically what that is an audio tuner. We've got 3 microphones with echo cancellation and ambient noise cancellation built into this panel. We have the speakers built into the physical panel. We've got the bass speaker. You can't just put microphones and speakers together and get them to play well together, right? You have to tune all that together, right? You have to make sure that they're playing well. And that we're not, taking audio out and receiving it in and distorting the noise, right? And we have to account for the 3 separate microphones that are on the panel. So there's a lot of work that actually goes into making all this work together. And that was a default stock tool that our Snapdragon chipset supports. So again, kind of this natural progression. We've got all the tools available to turn this into a music streaming, security panel. Why not do it, right? And so using that audio tuning DSP, which again is just a standard feature of the panel, we were able to fine tune these speakers and these microphones and create a really good sounding, music player, if you will. Okay, so you get some cool features there. Now, when it comes to connecting the bass, we've talked a lot about our smart mount system. Basically the panels hinge onto the back plate and kind of swing into place, and you lock it down with a locking screw. The same process, that same smart mount system it was implemented with our bass stand speaker. So the same thing, the panel is going to hinge onto the speaker and then lock itself in with a locking screw at the bottom. So I've got one more quick video here that I want to show that kind of takes you through that installation process, and then we'll go from there. Okay, pretty straightforward installation, right? You know, literally clicks into place. You have that pigtail that you got to plug into the back of the panel, and then you know you've got your barrel jack for power on the bottom of the speaker there, and that's it. So it's the same process of mounting it onto the backplate on the wall, but we're doing it with a speaker on the table stand. So very simple to do. You know, we're talking a 30-second process here. So obviously, you know, sound is important for voice and chimes. That was where all the feedback was. We wanted louder voices and chimes. You got it. The panel is very loud. Hopefully that feedback will disappear. Well, hopefully we'll never hear that the panel is not loud enough again, right? Of course, two-way audio is extremely important. You know, we have a very large customer out of the East Coast. Some of you probably know who they are. They're all about audio. You know, if someone breaks into their home, they come over the loudspeakers on the panel and let that intruder know that they're being watched and that they're, you know, that they're dispatching the police. That dealer has had basically a career-long issue with finding panels that were loud enough. They have been testing IQ4. They love it. They said they've never had a panel that has sounded as good and as loud, you know, as this panel. So we've got really good feedback from customers that really focus their whole sales pitch around sound, right? But again, we've got 3 digital microphones built into the panel. We've got ambient noise cancellation. We've got echo cancellation algorithms all running on the panel at all times, thanks to that Snapdragon chipset. And one of the direct results of that is really awesome two-way voice, right? We've heard that the two-way audio has never been clearer and louder on another panel before. So we've heard really good things about the two-way audio. But then last but not least, of course, the music streaming, right? We want to be able to use this to stream music. Of course, any phone can connect to the panel over Bluetooth. If you're a Spotify guy, an Apple Music guy, you know, Pandora guy, right? All those apps, as you saw in the video, can be used to stream music to your panel, right? Now to do that, I want to spend a quick few minutes here showing you how to do that and the steps to make that possible, and then we'll open it up to some questions here. So we're almost done. You know, pairing your phone to the system is simple. It's the same process as it was on IQ Panel 2 first and foremost, right? But it's also the same process as pairing any Bluetooth phone to any Bluetooth speakers. The same process as, you know, connecting your phone to the stereo in your vehicle, right? It's the same process as connecting your smartphone to a smart speaker, right, that you might carry around with you. Nothing's changed here. So that process I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on. We know how to pair Bluetooth to the system, right? We got some instructions here, but I think because this is the exact same process that we did on IQ Panel 2, I don't want to spend a lot of time here. But once you get your phone connected to the system, right, the same way you guys have always been doing it, you'll notice that the connection to the panel is just a passive connection. And this is how we did it on IQ Panel 2 as well. It's just a passive connection. And you could see that by going into your phone and under your Bluetooth menu and seeing that your phone was never connected to the panel, right? That's what we call passive connection. We only actually connected to the panel when we were doing the actual physical disarm of the system, right? So it was a half-second connection so that we can send the command to disarm the system, and then we went back to that passive connection again. We can't stream music to the panel if we're passively connected, right? So once you set up your phone on the system and you've connected your phone to the panel, you're going to be in this passive connection state, right? In order to change that to an active connection, all I have to do, as you can see here on the slide, is go back into my Bluetooth menu, select the panel for a second time. Touching the panel for a second time will change it from a passive connection to an active connection. And once you're actively connected to the panel, you can stream your music like you would any other Bluetooth device, right? So connect your phone to the panel, you know, follow that whole process, the same thing we've been doing for years now. Go back into your phone a second time, select the panel for a second time. That will switch it from a passive to an active connection, and now you're ready to go to stream music. So hopefully that was simple enough. Again, these instructions are in the installation manual. Of course, you know, if you need any clarifications, chat those in right now, and we'll get those answered. But thanks to, you know, that it really is that simple, and I'll show you here. So I'm going to pull out my phone here. I'm going to go down to my Bluetooth menu, and I'm going to find my IQ panel, and I'm going to select it, right? And what that will do is change that to an active connection. Now all I have to do is go over to my iTunes music, right? Pick a song that I want to play and hit play, right? And now that music is going to stream for us on the panel, okay? Quick 30-second preview here. Very good sounding. You know, I've got a handful of Bluetooth speakers around my house, a Sony, I've got a Samsung speaker, I've got a few different speakers, and you know, this sounds as good, if not better, than all those speakers. So pretty awesome feature. Use it, don't use it, that's up to you guys. But it is another notch in the belt. It's another thing to talk about to your customers. It's fun, it's sexy. It kind of plays into the whole home automation thing that we're all selling these days. But whether the customer uses it or doesn't use it is up to them, right? This is not obviously not a mandatory feature. It's just like I said, another notch in the belt, something else the panel can do. It's kind of fun, and so far feedback on it has been awesome. So that's all we really had prepared for you presentation-wise. But I know that we have some questions coming in. So what questions do we have, guys, if any, that we can answer?
We actually had a really good question come in as you were doing the demo there. If your phone rings while you're paired to the panel, will your call go through the panel?
Yes, it will.
Oh.
I mean, you know how when you're connected to like your Bluetooth in your car, and someone calls in and you can choose, right? Do you want it to go through the Bluetooth, right? Your Bluetooth headphones, the Bluetooth speaker, do you want it to go through the car, or do you want it to play on the phone, right? Same thing. So as it comes through, you can choose. It's going to recognize that you're connected to Bluetooth, and it will let you choose whether you want to keep it through Bluetooth, keep it on the phone, switch it to your AirPods, whatever, right? So your phone will act like your phone it'll act like you're connected to the stereo in your car, basically. Any questions about that? Is that, or any other questions, Joe?
A couple comments about people not realizing that we also had a black version of the IQ4. I also want to point out that we also have a darker version speaker as well for that panel.
Yeah, we do. So yeah, so as you noticed, all my slides are black. I personally am a fan of the black. I've got a black one in my house. My demo panel here is black.
You
so
and me both.
Yeah, I personally prefer the black. I just think it looks awesome. So yep, we do sell a black panel, and if you go with the black panel, we have a black speaker stand that kind of matches everything. So it looks really good. It looks really good on a table. Mine's wall mounted. Looks good wall mounted. So we, I personally love the black, which is why all my screenshots here were black. But yeah, yep. Any other questions?
Doesn't look like it. Looks like you did a great job, my friend.
Okay, you guys are easy. Well, like I said, let us, reach out to us. Let us know if you have questions. If we didn't get to them here, you can reach out to us, after the fact. Let us know if you guys don't have a TAM or a sales guy. I think that's important. I think a lot of people that attend aren't sure where to go to get their questions answered. So if you don't know who your local TAM is or who your local sales guy is, reach out to us, shout it in real quick, and we'll get you connected with those guys so that you can get your questions answered. Okay.
Indeed.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, so just as a reminder, there are 3 handouts in the, you can pull right from the interface. We have the quick guide wizard, the spec sheet for the IQ Panel 4, and the installation manual for IQ Panel 4. And as with previous workshops, we do have an after workshop survey. Please give us some feedback, what you want to see.
Front window open.
Sorry, there's how loud the panel is. We could see what we want to see on future workshops. We've only got 2 left in season 3, and then we're going to take a break for Christmas. Give all of you a few weeks off as well, and then we're going to come back, early in 2022. So again, any feedback, anything you want to see, just please put it in that after workshop survey, and we'll see you all next Thursday. Great job, Jason, and everybody enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one. See ya.